Let's all take a breath together, and let's all realize that we are gathering together from around the world. This is a map that's on my ceiling, actually, in my van, and I look up at night and see all of you around the world as I travel and plan future travels, and feel a lot of gratitude about the community that we're all involved with. So let's just take a minute to feel our pulse. Take some deep breaths together. Feel that centering. And tap into that essence of really what we're doing, no matter what and where. We're helping people reach into that unity, that one, that sense of grounding with everything. And now shifting to a heartbeat. And if you'd like to join in with body percussion, or if you have a shaker or something nearby, play along, knowing that we're all connected in this one rhythm. Thank you for that, everybody. Okay, well, so how this is going to work is I'm gonna give a few opening framing remarks about some of the concepts that I've been developing in terms of the business of drumming, and just a little background here, so I'll just get right into it. I've been in and around this world now for 20 years, hard to believe, but that's where it is. I've always been interested, coming from a business background before, I've always been interested in this question of how do people do this as a business? And so I've been paying attention to that for years. I've done it myself several times, actually. And I've also been watching many of you and our other friends around the world, kind of noticing who's doing it, how are they doing it, how's it working for them. And what I realized is that well, most businesses, or most fields, I should say, most professional fields look kind of like this when, in terms of professional development, people go through their education and they take their career steps and they move out into the world and grow their own little leaf on the tree of whatever that profession is. Our business, the Drum Circle Facilitators, or Rhythm Event Facilitators, group drumming facilitators, our field looks more like this. And what that means is that we don't have as much of a certain path, you know, a prescribed path of professional development. And so as I was out in the world observing all this and noticing my own experience with it, I realized we need some maps. I would like to contribute to the idea of making maps of how to navigate this world, of turning our interest and passion into an actual business. So that's what I've been working on. And what I realized is that because there are so many unique ways of doing this in the world in terms of programs, types of groups, and also each of our unique background and talents and passions, that it really does, there needs to be this kind of exploration and focusing process so that we end up creating the business that we really want. And that comes from, I believe, an alignment of three things. One is your interests, your talents, the things that you really want to do. Another is matching that up with the world of clients, the people that you want to reach, the people that you want to work with. And then to have programs that actually deliver the results that those clients want. I think what you're finding out there in the world is that much of the time, especially when you're trying to get paid for this work from an organization of any kind, whether it's a company, an educational institution, a health institution, whatever, they're looking for a result. Not necessarily, they don't necessarily want to drum. They don't know that they want drumming, but they want a result that you know that drumming can deliver. So it's that combination of reaching them with that message and then having programs that actually deliver what they want. So the process of creating a business for yourself is to keep working this circle, aligning these three things into focusing your efforts, your business building efforts, so that everything is pointing in the same direction and you're getting results, rather than more scrambling all over this beautiful world we live in, but trying to do too many things all at once. So the approach in my Business of Drumming course and the themes that we'll be tapping into here in this Superpower Circle series, kind of a little bit at a time, help you develop a strategy for your business. And it's starting with, where are you? What assets do you have? Where are you starting from? And again, in similar three things, you're starting with your own, at the bottom, your own passion and message. What's really important to you about this business? What message and gifts do you want to be giving people? Who do you know? Who are you connected to? What organizations and people are you already connected to that you can work from there? And what other skills, background, talents, experiences do you bring to put it all together? And part of the process is going through kind of an inventory of all of these things so that you really see what assets you have and then finding the right combination to put them together in a business. This is all happening in the context of your local culture, your local city, town, wherever you live. And that actually, I've realized, also makes a big difference in how what people's businesses end up looking like. They're just, the opportunities in one place versus another are very different. And so we want to recognize that as well, along with the more specific things to you and your business. So again, the keys to the success, finding a business, creating a business that fits you and your personality and what you want, learning how to speak to what clients want in language that they understand, and creating programs that deliver those results so that you can be confident that what you promised your client that you would do, you can actually deliver, and they will understand that. One model that I want to bring up, and many of you have seen this before, and if you watch the preliminary, the introductory videos that I sent, you've seen this too, but we're going to talk about this with Alisha as well. One model I like is this idea of our archetypal allies, that are strengths that we bring into our programs, that we bring into our circles. So some of us are stronger in some of these than others. And that's the idea that if you're strong in something, if you're really a great musician, okay, then how can you help that really come out in your program so that that becomes part of the sparkle and the dazzle and the value that you're delivering? Or if you're a great teacher and you have a lot of information and you like that role of being as a teacher, great, your programs can really reflect that and really emphasize that in the right circumstances when that's the kind of thing that your client wants. The performer, again, is similar to the musician, where you just love being on stage. You have the big presence, the charisma, the comfort in the center of the circle. That's great if you're good at that, you know, that bring that out. People definitely love to be entertained. And the guide and the or healer, guide is what I call this. Well, both of those are a case of where you're taking people from state A, point A in the beginning, to point B at the end, a destination, a journey. You're creating a journey of either cognition or relationships or changing the way the group relates to each other. That would be the case of the guide. Or if you're in a wellness situation, a healing or wellness situation, you're being the healer and you're taking people from one state of wellness to an improved state of wellness. And so the guide or the healer is the one that knows how to do that, that has the intuition of creating that type of journey so that the group or the people, the individuals, end up in a different place at the end where they wanted to go. So as far as the theme of our time, our session this time is called Make It Your Own. I have a worksheet that we'll send out as part of the follow-up after this is done, along with the links and stuff. So this worksheet is what I call your Dcf Personality Assessment. It's kind of tongue-in-cheek there, personality assessment, but it takes you through some questions that help you understand where your interests really lie. And I think what's valuable about this is not only to identify what you want and what you like and your strengths, the good things about yourself that you bring to the table, but also helps you identify maybe some things that other people are good at that you're maybe not so good at, but then you can let go of thinking those voices that say, I have to do this, I should be doing that, and so-and-so's doing this, I should be doing that. We can't do it all. And we look at the variety of people we have in our world, and if we try to chase what everybody else is doing, we're going to go nuts. So this is part of what I'm trying to offer here, as a way to really focus on your strengths, recognize things that maybe you want to improve or work on, that's fine, but also really accept your own great package of talents and background and passions, so that you can really focus your programs and your client focus on things that really fit you. So we'll send that out. If you haven't taken that before, you can try that after we're done here. All right. The second thing is about getting into your client's head and really understanding what they want and what language they are speaking in. And I won't go too far into that because, but I just want to plant the seeds, and I think Alisha will maybe be able to give some examples of this as well. But our clients, again, like I said, do not necessarily know they want drumming. They want what they want. They have a problem or a need, a desire, and that's the kind of language that you need to be talking to them with, so that they hear that you get it, and then they will listen to what you have to say about your solution. Okay. Right, because usually it's not, for them, it's not necessarily about drumming, it's about the kind of results that they need. Okay. I realized that I think there's basically 3 ways that we grow our business once you kind of get in and get started. And Alicia's going to talk about some of these. One is, and this is typically what happens, I think, is people find a niche, they get into a niche like an educational situation or healthcare or some type of organization or branch or sector of the in organizations. They get good at that, and it grows. They meet new people, they get referrals, they keep going within that niche, they get into another niche, same thing happens. And that's kind of the organic way to grow, and that's great. That's wonderful when you can do that. The next way is to actually reach out in the world, and this is also known as marketing. So we're going to talk more about that, but reaching out to reach clients through different marketing means. Another third way is to be findable through your website and your search engine stuff, which I'm not going to get into. That's pretty highly technical, but I think that is getting more and more important because people are wanting drumming more and more. The awareness of drumming and all it can do is definitely growing in the world. through all of our efforts. And so knowing that, you know, you want to be findable in terms of when clients are searching for something like that, both in the language of drumming and also in the language of the benefits that you provide, framed in other ways. So, when we reach out to the client world, you can do it directly through identifying individuals, potential clients. That's great. You can build a reputation and a following on the web, which Alicia's going to talk about a bit. And the third way is to be seen in live events in various ways. And I think this is really important because I know you've all experienced this. It's kind of hard to get people to get it if they haven't seen you, or maybe say it the other way. The easiest way to get people to get it is to have them see you. So finding ways to be seen through your live events is a real important way to help build your business. All right, so we're gonna go back to this. Well, I'll just throw this slide up here now, but we're gonna switch over and get Alicia's story about how she did all this. And so I'll stop that. And Alicia, if you wanna unmute yourself here.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, excellent. Okay.
Should I start screen sharing so we can go through some of the slides that I had prepared?
Yeah, sure, go ahead. Yeah, well, actually, let me, let me just say, yeah, that's right. Your slides are fine, because that gets right into the questions that we talked about, and you can start sharing some of your story. So the first one is really just a little background. I think everybody's story is really interesting. How did you get here? How did you end up with drumming and facilitation? And, you know, many of us have these sort of events or moments or turning points in our lives. So let's hear about yours.
Yeah, I wanted to put up a little bit of background first on here, just a few bullet points in case people don't know me or don't know who exactly I am, and then I'll talk a little bit more about this. So I do own a company called Just Add Rhythm here in Jacksonville, Florida. And I'll talk a little bit why and how I got my master's in ethnomusicology, a little bit about my performance background, and then a little bit about my facilitation background with some of the group drumming protocols that I have met many of you at. The short story is that I've always been a musician, and I attended Berklee College of Music in Boston many years ago to focus on vocal performance. And while I was there, I took a West African drum class focusing on rhythms from Ghana. And I just got really interested in rhythm as a part of my musicality. I thought it would make me a better singer to have more rhythm. And I had a really great professor of that class. I ended up traveling to Ghana, and on a student trip led by that professor, I decided to get my master's in ethnomusicology. And then as I was doing field research for my master's, I subsequently traveled to Senegal to work on that thesis research. So those are some pictures from my trips to Senegal and to Ghana between 2004 and 2006 there, with some of the other people that I went with to Ghana, although Senegal, I went on my own and did my research there. So those are some pictures of just my experiences there in West Africa. And then a little bit after that, I made my way down to Florida, and I danced and performed in several different groups in Boston and Pittsburgh and Miami, and now here in Jacksonville. So just some photos of different groups that I belonged in those three cities, performing groups. And I considered myself an academic of West African drum and dance for a long time. And so I wanted as much opportunity to learn and become as insider as one can be when they're a cultural outsider to this type of music. So I knew that I wanted to do something with this. I knew that I loved, drumming and dancing and performing, and I wasn't a cultural insider, and I was very aware of that. So I started experimenting with facilitation, And I took a couple trainings from Kalani in 2008 and 2009. He has a World Rhythms Arts program and then a developmental community music facilitator training. And then from there, I just took whatever trainings, wherever and whenever I could take trainings to kind of hone my technical skills. I started out as a Music Together teacher many years ago, children's music program, and then a Boston-based program called Rhythm Kids. So I knew I loved working with kids, and I started with that. And I wanted to parlay that into some kind of career. And so that was a natural place that I wanted to start. And I also knew that adults needed more rhythm in their lives. And so I figured out how we could do that. So that's a little bit of background on kind of how I ended up becoming a facilitator through this thread of West African music and this idea of community that I really loved about being in West Africa. So the groups that we usually work with, because I know, Mary, that was something that you wanted me to touch on a little bit. Everybody always says you can't work with everybody, but with Just Add Rhythm, we really do. We run the gamut, and I'm sure a lot of you can feel this similar way. But three arms I'd say that we work with the most are corporate, educational, and community organizations. So for the corporate side of things, we focus on employee wellness. Sometimes we do conferences, we do icebreakers and breakout sessions for conferences and events, and focusing on team building trainings for employees as well. Educational is really where I started, and that's mostly K through 12th grade, although we do some preschool and some university stuff as well. And we focus a lot on social skills and STEM and STEAM and things like that. And again, they focus on leadership and communication and really building those skills. And community is kind of where everything else falls. Nonprofit organizations, things that are funded by grants, work with senior facilities, senior citizen centers, recovery centers. So they might be a 501c3 or they may not. But a lot of just other special groups that just want to drum for fun or for wellness or for health or for togetherness. So those are the types of people that we work with. Some of our current and ongoing clients lately have included Humana, the Boys and Girls Clubs from basically several different places in Florida, public libraries, the Jacksonville Public Libraries, different county public libraries, the YMCA, a lot of different senior facilities, and a lot of different after-school programs. So that's a little background on Just Add Rhythm and who we drum with. I don't know, Mary, if you wanna ask me the questions that I know you wanted to touch on, or if you prefer me to just kind of keep it moving, that's up to you.
Yeah, well, let's see. Yeah, let's go on to the next one. And I know you have your slides as well, but I wanted to have you talk about which of your archetypal allies you draw on most. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got your slide up there, your picture of the 4 different types up there. And you had encouraged me to pick 1 or 2, and as I was telling you, I really wanted to focus on 3 of them.
Yeah, that's nice.
because they're I think they all have informed a little bit of the style that I have as a facilitator, and based on at what point in my life I was doing something. So I always, I started off as a musician, playing piano as a child and taking voice lessons. Through my teen years and into college, and then discovering drumming. So that musicianship is a strong core of how I consider myself as a facilitator. And that's the kind of thing that I think I can always go back on if I'm maybe finding myself in a challenging situation with the group that I'm working with. That musicianship is something that I know that I can fall back on if I need to. But again, I've been a performer for much of my life as well. There's a lot of performance background that I have had in high school and in college, and then once we started performing in different West African drum and dance groups. So kind of used to being in the spotlight, used to having that kind of stage presence and having that on stage persona a little bit. Figuring out ways to engage the audience, or in this case, in a drum circle, the other participants in the group. And then the teacher in me is something that I've had since I taught Music Together, years ago, right out of college. just this background in working with kids, working with families, and working in a community environment. So those are all things that I think inform my specific facilitation style, and I can kind of pull them out as I need them or weave them together depending on the population that I'm working with. So the picture that I included there is from an event that we did for an employee team building for a nonprofit organization that works with children with special needs. That's something that we did last year. They had like a day full of training for their employees, and this was a fun team building training that we did for them. So there's a link at the bottom here that I was just going to type into the chat bar, just copy and paste real quick because in case anybody wants to see. I don't need to access the chat bar. Where'd it go? There. So that's just a few minutes long. You don't have to watch it now, but if you're curious to kind of see how you had wanted to know an example of the way that my different archetypal allies come out, I think that's a pretty good example that we caught on camera there last year.
Great. Yeah, great. So one of the reasons I wanted to interview you today, Alisha, is that you've actually set up your business twice. Once in Miami when you got started, which sounds like it was kind of more like you just started and kind of learned along as you went. But then you and your husband moved to Jacksonville, which meant starting over basically in a new city. And so and to my observation, you actually got up and running pretty quickly, I thought. So I was just curious about that experience and what you learned about creating a business in one place that you were able to kind of get off to a running start when you moved, and what have been your key successes to building an actual business and, being as active and busy as you are.
Yeah, in South Florida, as I kind of mentioned to you, I pretty much started my business without having much clue as to what I was doing business-wise. I knew I had the drumming chops, and I knew that I was building this experience in facilitation, and that's why I wanted to do this. I wanted to start my own business. And so I took like a local college class to write a business plan. I got a SCORE mentor, but I probably didn't utilize his knowledge as much as I should have if I would have known more about how to do that. So in South Florida, it was mostly just me building upon the relationships I had already started with various educational groups. I worked in a nonprofit for a while down there. I worked in after-school programs, and I had that knowledge base to start from. So when you're talking about finding that niche and growing it, that's how I started in South Florida, was just in that educational niche and just building upon it and getting people to, through word of mouth, talking about different events that they had been to that they hired me for, and then referring me to other similar organizations. So we did a lot of that in South Florida, and I knew when I moved to Jacksonville, I wanted more. I wanted to do more, and I wanted to reach more different populations of people. And working in the corporate world was really something that was a big goal for me, a big step. And so I kind of jumped in with both feet when I moved to Jacksonville, and just networking. I joined a bunch of different business meetups on meetup.com that I saw in Jacksonville. There were a lot of different networking groups for women, business owners, and entrepreneurs specifically here in Jacksonville. It's a big community for women entrepreneurs. There's a lot of support here for that. So I went to some of those types of events. And then you meet people at those events that maybe you connect with on a more meaningful level, and you want to have, meet them one-on-one for lunch or coffee or whatever, and talk more about how you can collaborate or work together in some way or support each other. So I kind of knew the sort of people that I wanted to meet when it came to those networking events, and I started realizing which ones were worth my time to go to on a more regular basis, and maybe which ones just weren't going to yield the results that I was hoping for. Because just to attend a networking event, you have to sign up, you have to sometimes pay a lot or a little, you have to drive yourself there, you have to spend time there, and then you have to follow up on all those people that you met, passing out the business cards and the emails. So it's a lot, there's a lot that goes into it, and spending your time wisely and just evaluating where you think you can have the most impact. That's something that I learned, and I hope other people would realize as they begin to network or continue networking for their business too. I'm trying to see, there are other types of events that we attended, mostly just building relationships with organizations. Jacksonville has a big healthcare community and a big banking and investment industry here. So I would try to go to events where I thought I would meet people from those industries because I wanted to work with them. So being able to be introduced to people organically was something that was always in my mind when I would choose those events that I wanted to go to. Let me see if I think I had something on the slide here. Oh, that's good. Back to who we drove with. Oh, so the business building strategy. Some of the networking groups that I joined that really stuck out. So the first of the 3 columns there, the lunches, the meetups, the networking groups. There was one that I went to that was, it was a meetup for people that were trying to build their authority in whatever field they were in. And so if you wanted to write a book, or if you wanted to start a blog, if you were interested in developing a speaking career, just putting yourself on a bigger platform, they were there, those people from this meetup were there to help you with that. So that was good. And then Mary, I mentioned to you that I was taking your class, Business of Drumming and Business, at that time. And so that was really helpful for me because I wanted to start working in that corporate environment. And so the templates that you offered us, I still use the client questionnaire. Sometimes if I get calls in from different companies about conferences or large-scale events, I use that client questionnaire to figure out what exactly they want us to come in and do and how we can align our program with their objectives. And I was taking Christine Stevens' classes that time too. Last year I was part of her mentoring group, and I'm part of her mastermind mentoring group this year. So putting all of those things together have been a real big help in figuring out what's important to me when I build my business.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Cool. Yeah, so you really educated yourself in the process of business and got yourself out there, meeting people and like that meetup group. That's interesting, meeting with people of different fields and professions, but who all want to be stepping out into a bigger stage. So yeah, good for you. So,
it really pushed me. It really pushed me to take myself to the next level and take myself a little more seriously. Other people were, and I was like, oh, okay, this is the world of grown-ups now. This is what people are doing, and maybe I should try to emulate some of what they're doing to build their businesses.
Yeah, exactly. And I think in our field we have an extra kind of layer of challenge with that, because we're not just putting ourselves out as, I am a trained, educated accountant and I will do your accounting. That's kind of easy for people to grab and easy to say and easy to believe you have the credentials if you've gone through the training. But we're putting ourselves out there as ourselves, as our unique individual people, and doing this thing that is kind of unknown or less known anyway. And so really to put ourselves out in front of people and practice doing it in situations like that is really, helps build the confidence and the how we describe ourselves and everything else. So good for you.
Yeah, that was great practice for your elevator pitch. If you're still working on how to craft your 30-second elevator pitch, go to a bunch of those events and just constantly be asked, what do you do? And then have people raise their eyebrows and say, that sounds interesting. Yeah. And then be able to talk more about it, because nobody here has ever heard of it. So
that's right. Yeah. Excellent. Okay. Well, so you talked a little bit about, you started with finding a niche and growing in it. Oh, let's see. Sorry. Finding a niche and growing in it. What are you doing now about direct or client outreach, either directly to individuals or through more of the marketing, the social media, that sort of thing?
Yeah, there's a little bit here that I know we talked about that I wanted to talk about. So that niche thing is something that I've been doing, and then the outreach was I would say the social media is really a big part of what I started doing more of when I moved to Jacksonville. And so when I took Christine's first mentoring group last year, when I was a part of that, she talked frequently about how marketing should be, in general, about 20% of where you're spending your time, your effort, your money, and things like that. And she said, that's the equivalent of like one day of a week of a 40-hour work week. And so are you putting in that kind of time and energy? And it could be more or less depending on what you consider marketing. But social media, I had started out on different platforms, and I was encouraged by someone this year to actually be on Instagram as well. I resisted it for a while. So Instagram seems to be a good way to grow our following. And Facebook, we already had a following, so that was great. But the other types of outreach that I started doing on my own were just creating a monthly blog post on our website, and then a monthly blog post on our YouTube channel. We have a monthly email newsletter that I send out, and a lot of the times my content is repurposed. So if I wrote a blog or a blog post, that content will go in the newsletter. So I don't have to come up with completely new content for my newsletter. And I share our YouTube channel a lot because I know, as you said, the easiest way for somebody to get an idea of what we do and what the benefits of it are for them to firsthand experience it. And so if they cannot do that for whatever reason, if we don't have a public event coming up or they're not ready to book us yet, they can go to the YouTube channel, because that's one of the first questions I would get asked a lot was, do you have videos that we can see? And getting permission was a big, sort of a big hurdle for me, but once we started doing more events where I had that permission to get video, I would take the tripod and set up my phone and just turn on the camera, or I would bring a volunteer to come and help record some video clips of our events. And then I don't even edit very much of it. I just put up a 3 to 5 minute clip on YouTube just so people can see, hey, this is an event that we did. Here's what the drums look like. Here's what the setup looks like. And just give people an image in their mind. So I push that a lot when people reach out to us, or when I'm trying to work with somebody. I make sure I include the link to our YouTube channel and any email communications I have with them. And internal marketing with clients. I know Christine talks a lot about what type of internal marketing are you doing with the client that you've already booked, or that you booked and now you're done working with. They're not done with them. But building that relationship and maintaining it even after the event is over. So making sure to ask for testimonials. And Christine will offer you lots of great tips on how to gather testimonials easily, because it can be a challenging thing. Even if people had a great time, sometimes it can be challenging to get a testimonial. And pictures. If we are allowed to take pictures or video, then I will send those back to the client. Oftentimes, the edited versions of really great pictures, really great video clips, I'll send them back to them and say, hey, use this in your marketing if you want, or just for your own enjoyment, just as a thank you for letting us come out and work with you guys. Yeah, and various tools for outreach. So I use this program called Text to Full to get people to sign up for our newsletter, which I'll show at the end of my slides here. If you want to sign up for the newsletter, it's that thing where you text something on your phone to some number and it signs you up for something. So that can integrate with your newsletter platform. Mine doesn't, but I can easily put it into a spreadsheet and put it into my newsletter platform. And then using something to schedule social media posts is another way we keep outreach sort of easy. So I have an assistant that creates content for us that I found on Upwork recently, the freelance website called Upwork. And he's in Bangladesh, and he's a social media specialist, and he can create and curate content for us to post, and he'll schedule it in Buffer. So that's something that I took off my plate, and I don't have to do. I can manage it, I can manage him, but I don't have to come up with all that content all the time. And then follow-ups with the client, sending the occasional thank you cards. I always send a thank you email with pictures and video if I can. And around the holidays, we sent holiday cards to some of our clients too, just to thank them for their business this year. So I would say that's probably more than one day's worth of outreach that I'm doing in that respect, but it depends on the time of year and how many clients I'm trying to reach, or how many clients I have on my plate at the time.
Yeah. Well, I think you're a great example of just doing it, of persistence. It is a lot of work, and you want to do the things that are logical to make your next step. You don't have to do all, not you personally, Alisha, but someone doesn't have to try to do all of these things all at once necessarily, because you want to get traction on each one and then go on to the next. But that effort of being known, of putting yourself out there, of sharing and cultivating existing client relationships, I think you're a great example of doing that. And your the number of gigs, the busyness that you have in terms of your work is showing those results. So what are your big goals for this year, for 2019?
I have been working through like an online course through a company called the Speaker Lab to develop my speaking chops so that I can become a speaker for different events, hopefully local, and then eventually maybe in places that are not where I live that I can travel to. So that course has been really great in showing you kind of how to identify the problem or the objective that you're trying to talk to people about, and getting really clear on that. Developing your talk and how to structure it based on that clear objective that you have, and then actually learning how to reach out and book those gigs and get paid for them. So that's something that I'm working through, because I think it will give me a bigger platform to share the benefits of rhythm with a wider audience, and then and hopefully that may end up bringing in more business for my company as well, if I can and book events like that. So another thing that I wanted to focus on this year were developing some corporate social responsibility partnerships. So there's a lot, like as I started to build these corporate relationships with companies in my area in Jacksonville here, being able to work with them in such a way that allows them to either directly or indirectly sponsor programs that I do on a community level with, let's say, nonprofit and children's organizations and things like that, to fund those other programs. So if I book a corporate program, being able to charge them a certain amount will help me be able to charge a much lesser amount to those community programs that we have partnership with, that allow me to do both and get compensated to do them, but still reach the people that may not be able to pay or may not be able to pay as much for our services.
So you offer that social responsibility visibility for the corporate client as part of the overall pitch, the overall proposal that you're offering for their drum circle or their event?
That is something that I'm working towards, yes. So right now I'm just kind of in the phase of building these relationships with corporations in such a way that they understand clearly what it is we offer, and they understand the value of it, and they're in. They're excited, they get it, they want to be proponents for us. And then also then introducing them the concept of this social responsibility component. So there's several organizations here in Jacksonville that I've been working with that we're trying to get funding for, and we're not really sure how to get it yet. And I think this could be a good way to go. So for example, with with Humana, having them as a client, we've done a couple sessions for them already that have not been paid, and we have a paid session coming up with them for an event that they have in April. And once we've developed this relationship to the point where they know what to expect from us, being able to introduce this idea of, hey, if you'd like to do something maybe on a more regular basis with any of the programs or teams that you have, here's an opportunity to give back to the community. And then figuring out what that looks like, so that they don't just want to do it just for charity, but there's a buy-in for the company. Maybe they have visibility in some way at the events that we're holding on the community side. So that's not something I have like a ton of experience in, but I have gotten feedback from different people about, and just working through it. And if anybody else can speak more knowledgeably about that, I would love to hear what advice they have on working in that arena.
Yeah, good idea. All right, well, let's see. Let's get on to our questions, and then Alisha, you can also bring in any other wisdom you want to share as part of that, as we hear what else people want to hear about. Let's see. Thank you to Celeste for for typing some of these up and passing them on to us. Let's see. One is, how do you maintain the role of creative director or project manager when you're designing, designing a program? How do you handle it when the person or organization that is requesting a program has an idea that you know from experience might not be the best plan for the group? Okay, that's kind of two questions, but related. What would you say to that, Alisha?
Just kind of, I always take that opportunity to educate the client or the potential client about the type of services that we offer and the value that people are likely to get out of them. And so just framing my language in such a way as trying to understand better what event they have and what their idea is, and then being able to reflect that back to them in a way that will be more in alignment with the services that we offer, and putting it in such a way that they understand that this is probably more what they're looking for. They just don't know it yet. So I get a lot of requests from people that are like, can you come out and perform for us? Can you come and do a class for us? And the thing that I answer is, you know, we're not a performance or a class. It's an in-the-moment experience for everybody. And your participants, they're the performers. You know, they're actually participating in this. And then I'll direct them to the YouTube channel or what have you to look at it, or invite them to something that I have coming up to check it out. But just, you know, I invite more questions. You know, I ask more questions about the type of event they have and what they have in mind. I got a call a couple weeks ago from an art museum here in Jacksonville, and they have an event coming up, a festival for kids that have various disabilities and special needs. And they want, you know, they were talking about, oh, we want a group of performers. And I said, well, you know, let me talk with you more and let me find out if what I offer can be in alignment with what you guys have in mind. And turns out it could be, you know, it just, we had to have a longer conversation about it, but they're excited about it. I'm excited about it. And I think it's going to work out great. So
yeah, that's great.
Sometimes it's just more of a conversation on the phone with someone, or a chance to meet them in person and just talk more and find out what they want, and be like, oh yeah, we could do something like this for you. How about this? Or how about that? Not this, but this other thing.
Yeah, that's excellent. Both that point about the chance for a deeper conversation, which is really valuable. Anytime you can get anybody on the phone talking back and forth about what they want, what they expect, what they envision, so that you really get the essence of the outcome they're looking for, then you can frame what you offer in a ways that shows them that that's the way to meet it. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's see. How do you get permission to shoot and use photos and video? Do you have assigned releases?
Yeah, I've gone back and forth with this over the last few years with different types of events. Sometimes I will need to use a signed release, which I have like a blanket release where I have written some fine print at the top of something, and it's just a chance for people to sign their name underneath that statement as a group. Less frequently, I think someone has required everybody to sign their own document. That doesn't usually happen. Most of the time, they'll just say, it's okay as long as you make people aware of the fact that you are recording XYZ. So with children's groups, it's always a challenge. With senior citizen centers, I am almost never allowed to record. I think there was one time that they recorded something on their behalf, and then they shared that video with me, and I was allowed to share it. But with senior centers, usually there are like HIPAA regulations and things where I am not allowed to video record anything there, and so we don't often get to do that. But if you do, then you try to make the most of it. You know, there was one event that it was like a senior wellness expo, and we did get permission because it was people that were in independent living. That HIPAA regulation was not in place, and they said, yes, you can have permission to come in video. Just let everybody know, make it very clear that so-and-so is taking pictures. And then we use those pictures in anytime we need to show people pictures of seniors drumming, we'll use those pictures from that event. So
Right.
just getting a lot of mileage out of maybe one event and doing pictures, doing videos, sharing it across your social media platforms.
Mm-hmm.
With people in like a company, like if we're doing a corporate thing, I'll put it into the contract. I'll say, this is what we're providing. This is what you guys are providing. And as part of the contract, we are allowed to film and take pictures on our behalf, and we will share those pictures with you. And most of the time with the corporate environment, it's not a problem. People sign the contract, they're fine with it. And we'll share those, like I said, we'll share those pictures often in a Google Drive. I'll just put it up on my Google Drive and I'll share it with whoever was my point of contact for that event.
Great.
So it depends on the population.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe we'll have, maybe we can get your release form as an example to send out with people after the follow-up of this call.
Sure.
Okay. A couple other questions asking about how you're using your virtual assistant. What specific tasks do you assign, and how do you get them? How does it work if they don't really know about drumming? How do they know what to do then to support your business?
Yeah, I've had several virtual assistants over the last 2 years. Basically every 6 months, for some reason or another, that person needs to leave that position for, personal, not related to my business reasons. The person that I'm working with right now that I found on Upwork, he specializes in social media. That's what I looked for on that particular website. And so those are the tasks assigned to him mostly, is what he handles, the creation and or curation of content to post, to schedule, and then post on our Facebook page. We have Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. Yeah. And so sometimes the content is the same across those platforms and sometimes it's different. So there was a learning curve for him. In the first, few weeks, he was like, hey, I need more hours than what you assigned me in order to do research on this topic that I'm not familiar with. And so in the Upwork platform, I have to approve a certain number of hours that he's allowed to work and then bill me for. And I said, yeah, I understand that. That makes sense. And what he would do, the system that we currently have is he creates text content, actual copy, and then he creates an image, or he finds an image and brands that image for us with our logo and stuff. And he'll put those into a Google Drive for me to look at and then approve or make suggestions on. At which point, after they're all approved, he'll schedule them in Buffer, which is the social media scheduling platform that we use. So those are the tasks that I use with him, although with other assistants, I actually just hired a slightly different assistant right now to help us make phone calls for summer camp programs, to try and book summer camps. Because I met her out in my community. She just won a seat on the Community Development District Board that I had voted on for her. And I said, and she was interested in this position. And I said, what do you think of trying to make phone calls and just see if we can book other summer programs? So for that particular one, I'm paying her a flat fee. And then if we actually book any programs as a result of her calls, she will get a small commission that we agree on for any of those. And then administrative tasks. If I need somebody to do research and just create a spreadsheet, like go make a list of the senior living facilities that are within a 30-mile radius of where I live, and then give me the contacts of that. And then, can you go and make some phone calls on our behalf and see if we can set up a free demo at any of those sites. So that's, my past assistant had done that for me as well. So anything that you basically can take off your plate that doesn't require a ton of knowledge on that person's part, that they kind of have an idea of what you do. I give the person a script on how to make the phone calls, and they had an idea of what our programs are like. That non-specific stuff that you just don't need to take the time to do is great if you have a helper.
Right. Okay. All right. Let's see. One question coming through. How did you learn all of this business development stuff that you're talking about right now?
If anybody was at the DCFG conference last month, I talked a little bit about a program that I just finished last fall called Jax Bridges, which was offered through the Jacksonville Chamber of Commerce. So it's in the city that I live. There was actually a program that was offered free if we applied and got accepted. It was a 3-month program, and they took small businesses and entrepreneurs through this program that allowed us to get clear on our value proposition, which is something that I had presented about at the conference last month. Our value proposition, who is it that we serve? Who is our perfect client? How do we provide value to them? What gains or pains does this client have that we are addressing through our product or service? What business model do we have? So how do you make money for your business? Do you go out and provide direct service like a lot of us do? Do you have online course offerings? Do you have a platform like Facebook where you can charge people to advertise on it and make money that way? So picking and choosing different trainings that my city offers, and then combining that with like the course that I took from you, Mary, and the mentoring that I've taken from Christine, and just kind of plugging all those puzzle pieces together. That's how I've been doing it so far.
That's great. Celeste is adding a note here that many cities have those kind of business incubator programs.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely check your local city and see. I mean, SCORE, we have a small business development center here in Jacksonville that offers free mentoring and then paid services as well. So you might check and see if your city has a small business development center too.
Right. Yeah. SCORE, I can't remember what it actually stands for, but SCORE is a business small business development program from the United States government that's staffed by retired business people, and you can get matched up with people, and you can go to different presentations and things like that. So yeah. Let's see. There's one about, let's see, how do you determine pricing? That's a big subject. I'm not sure if we want to get totally into it, but if you have any kind of quick answers to that question about pricing.
If somebody's reaching out to me and asking, and like they'll be like, hey, I found you on your web, they'll reach out through my website and be like, I have this event, how much do you charge? Mm-hmm. I usually write back to them and try to get them on the phone so that I can get a better idea of the context of the event. And I'll say it usually depends on how many people we're serving, the type of event it is, and what the population is. And then on my end, it's also how far do I have to drive to get there? Right. So I have a fee menu, and that's another thing that I had to develop as part of Christine's mentoring program last year, was an internal fee menu, something that I use to refer to if people call me about a certain type of event. I keep changing it, it evolves over time. But I have pricing for how much do I charge for an after-school program, for a corporate program that's in town versus out of town, one that's large versus small, library programs, senior citizen centers. I have different pricing for all of those things, and those are based on just my experience, what is worth my time, what has been worth my time, what will I do, what am I not willing to do, and just developing those numbers as I see the need to.
Right. Yeah, I think your point about getting them on the phone before you give a number is a really crucial one, because you really want to know what they're looking for, how much value does that represent? Entertaining people for an hour is different than taking them through communication skills training, and you obviously want to be charging two different levels of, if it's like that. So that's smart. That's right. Okay, well, we are, I kind of want to wind up this part of it and give you some ideas about where to go next with this. Let's see, going back to...
I wanted to share, would it be okay if I share one more slide?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
I forgot. These are the social media platforms that we are on. So if you want to search Just Add Rhythm on any of these social media platforms, whatever's your favorite, feel free. My contact information is here if you like. And then if you want to subscribe to our free monthly newsletter, you can see the vlog and the vlog posts and other stuff. As if you're a DCF and you're interested in seeing about what does someone else's newsletter look like? Like I subscribe to yours, Mary's, I subscribe to Christine's. It's great to just kind of be in your world and see what you guys are up to. So if you want to do that, you can text the word drum in all caps to 345-345.
Yeah, all right. That's a good idea to subscribe to each other's stuff is highly recommended. That's right. Okay, so let's see. So Alisha, turn off your screen share.
Yep.
And
how do I turn off my screen share?
It's down bottom center. Yeah. Okay. All right. And let's see. So, just to wind this up and give you some ideas about where to go next with your business. Again, we're talking about aligning these three things, and this all applies to whichever target audience, target clients you're aiming at. And like Alisha said, you can certainly be aiming at different groups along the way. You don't have to stick with one. But in terms of your marketing efforts and you know, trying to get some traction with each of these groups, that's where real focus and understanding what your client really wants and kind of building up on that really pays off. Don't let yourself get scattered. So for yourself, cultivating your own, what I call your big why. Why are you doing this? What's this about? We can get so busy in either doing gigs or working on the business and being you know, on social media. We can kind of forget about our own passion, our own musicality, our own sense of why is this important. So just really always looking at cultivating that for yourself. Being a solo entrepreneur means you have to do this for yourself. You don't get it from your coworkers and, you know, what people collect in a more collective environment. But so pay attention to your own self. Keep thinking in terms of your specific client. What do they want? What's their language? Going to networking meetings is a great way to meet these kind of people. Who are they? What do they talk like? How do they describe their challenges at work? How can you fill in and speak back to them in their language? If you're wanting more in terms of program design, hopefully many of you have read my little ebook. I sent out the link to that. That's free, and that talks about an approach to program design that's kind of universal, and take it for what it's worth. And if you have a particular gig coming up or a proposal for a big gig that is kind of a big deal and you would really like some ideas and advice about how to approach it in terms of delivering results that the client wants, I'm available for one-to-one consulting for situations like that. And I love those conversations. So, so please check out my website on that page, and I'm happy to help you with ideas about reaching, you know, doing a big gig. Let's see. So the persistence side, you know, sticking with it, as Alisha's been talking about the way she's really run at her business over the last couple of years and built it successfully. I have a couple ways to help out there. One is my online course that Alisha talked about. This is a self-study thing. There's 10 modules, takes you through step-by-step this business development stuff with videos and worksheets. And I also include in this package 2 30-minute sessions, one-on-one consulting by phone with me. The first one, I like to talk to people at the beginning when they're just getting started with the course, to take a look at, back to this strategy slide, you know, where are you? What is your situation? What's going on? What are your assets that you can build with? So that's the first 30 minutes. And then later on, if you have a particular gig, we can talk about that. If you want to talk more about strategy and your own business development, we can talk about that. But the 2 sessions with me, I think, can really help you apply what all this material is talking about. Then we have this circle. This is the first introductory webinar interview, and I'm going to continue these on in April, May, and June. And next month, April, we're going to be talking with Oliver from Barcelona, he has really developed some pretty high-level corporate training programs, and so that topic is going to be about creating high-value programs where you're actually teaching people stuff and using rhythm as a way to do that. In May, we'll be talking with Pita from Australia. She's really done some wonderful things in terms of following her passion for sound healing and that sort of thing. So that idea about following your passion there. And in June, we have Jenny Swordlow, who's been really doing great work in the Bay Area. And so we'll talk about how she did that and really getting her insights into building that business that way. As you know, we have the worksheets and stuff like that. So I also have a Facebook group, Business of Drumming Facebook group, that can exchange ideas, ask questions, and you become members of that as well. So yeah, there's our people coming up for the next few sessions. So that is that is it for today. So any other final words, questions, anything anybody wants to say before we sign off today? Yeah. Celeste, Alicia, anything you want to add?
I was just going to say I can share that document that I use for people to sign the agreement. I don't know how. I can email it to you if you want to share it via email to whoever's on this chat. I don't know.
Yeah, send it to me and we'll make a little package and send out all that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great. So one of the big ideas behind this the Superpower Circle series is to have a monthly way for us around the world to get together and hang out and chat and hear each other and be reminded of all the great ways people are doing this work for our own inspiration and to feel part of something bigger. We all know that, and I think that's a big attraction to that. So this is a live way to reinforce that and just reappreciate all these wonderful people we're connected with, and that we're part of this way of working in the world that brings so much creativity and joy and connection, and just to really celebrate that fact. So I hope you'll come. I hope you'll sign up for the rest of the series the next few months. And if that all works well, we'll keep it going. I was listing all of the different facilitators around the world that I'd like to talk to, that I'd like to have a session like this, and it's quite a list. So we can keep this going as long as people are interested and show up, and so I hope all that happens. All right. So everybody have a great week, great month, and hope to see you in some of the different gatherings that we're having. I'll be in the Malaysia Asia Facilitators Conference. I'll be in Seattle at the Seattle World Rhythm Festival. So there's lots of ways to meet up and be in person with each other around the world. But and thank goodness for this online way to do it as well. So, and thanks to Celeste, thanks to Alicia, and thanks to all of you for showing up.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Alicia.
Thanks. All right. All right, we can all say goodbye.
Bye-bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye.